Hello and welcome to our third lecture on emotion. So now we're going to look at three theories of emotion. We're going to look at the James Lange theory, the Cannon-Barrett theory, and the Schachter-Singer two-factor theory. In 1884, James asserted that a person's interpretation of the physical changes in a situation leads that person to feel an emotion. Now, a similar theory was independently proposed by a physician and psychologist named Charles Lange. And so this developed into the James Lange theory of emotion. This theory maintains that people perceive specific patterns of bodily responses, and because of that perception, they feel emotion. So, what this is saying is that, we know that the body changes how it changes its physiological state as we feel emotions. So, when we're scared or when we're angry, when we are surprised, our blood pressure will change, our heart rate patterns will change, our respiration may change, our pupil dilation may change, we might sweat, and it is these physiological changes that James and Lange are saying, okay, we perceive these specific patterns of physiological responses, and when we perceive a specific combination of physiological responses happening together, we then feel an emotion. So our body experiences these changes and we perceive that as an emotion. We feel it. So the physiological response becomes an emotional feeling. So, using a bear analogy, the stimulus is a grizzly bear approaching, and it's angry. It's not a happy, cute grizzly bear, because actually in nature they can be pretty damn cute, but you don't want to go up to them. So you see a threatening grizzly bear approaching. You're going to feel afraid. Most people are going to feel afraid. Only an idiot wouldn't feel afraid, because a bear will kill you easily. Now, your body is going to start experiencing arousal. Your heart's going to start pounding. You're going to start shaking a little bit. You're going to start sweating. And you're likely going to run, which is the last thing you really want to do with a bear. Really don't run with a bear. I've taken some bear survival courses and stuff like that. You don't want to run. Do not run. Second scenario, you see a threatening grizzly bear approaching. Your heart's pounding, trembling, sweating. You want to run away, but now you know not to, because Lisa told you not to. And you have that feeling of fear. So the question is, do you feel fear first and then the physiological arousal? Or do you feel the physiological arousal, those physiological changes, and then feel fear? And that's really what these three theories look at. It's kind of like an apple or a chicken versus egg scenario. Which came first, the feeling or the physiological change? One implication, the James Lange theory would say that it is B. That you see the threatening grizzly bear approaching. Your heart is pounding, you start to tremble, you're sweating, you're feeling that, not talking about the feeling yet. James Lange would say your brain interprets this combination of physiological arousals and interprets that as the feeling of fear. So you feel fear. According to James Lang, that's how it works. Now, one implication of the counterintuitive James Lang theory is that if you mold your facial muscles to mimic an emotional state, you activate the associated emotion. I love this. It's actually, but facial expressions trigger the experience of emotions, not the other way around. So let me see if I've got the, yes. So get a pencil, because you're going to want to try this. The James Lang theory brings up the facial feedback hypothesis. If you hold a pencil between your teeth, it engages the facial muscles as if you were smiling. Now, if you hold the pencil on your top lip, like in the second picture on the right, it activates the muscles in the face as if you were frowning. So I want you to try that. No one's looking. You can totally do it. So I want you to try both facial reactions, and I want you to think about, what do you feel? I totally love the facial feedback hypothesis because for me it works. When I'm having a tough day, I'm on my way to work, I'm not in the mood to go to work, and I'm like driving up, I'm about to turn into LCC, and I just put on the biggest smile I can put on my face. Sometimes I have to do it 2 or 3 times, but it works. And I feel like such an idiot doing it in my car. I'm like glad I'm all by myself because I feel like an idiot. I know I look goofy, but it works for some reason. And the James Lang theory does explain this by creating the physiological state that mimics a smile. My emotion follows that physiological state. Even though I didn't have the stimuli to make me smile, I actually created a false smile. My emotions caught up with the facial, the facial muscle changes. It actually works for most people. Okay. Now, Cannon and Baird proposed that the mind and body experience emotions independently. And they come from the perspective of this as the mind is so quick to experience emotions, where the body is a lot slower. It takes at least a second or two for the body to respond and to organize its physiological responses, where the mind can so much more quickly bring an emotion to consciousness. And so Cannon and Baird are saying, no, these are separate processes. So information about emotional stimuli is sent simultaneously to the cortex. The cortex is all that pink wrinkly part of the brain on the top of the brain. So that emotional stimuli is sent simultaneously to the cortex and to the body and results in an emotional experience and a bodily reaction, respectively. So when you're experiencing emotions, the feeling of the emotion and the physiological reaction, these are separate. They come together, but they are separate experiences. So we experience 2 separate things at roughly the same time, an emotion and a physical reaction. They just happen to match. So you see a threatening grizzly bear approach, according to Cannon and Baird. You have the physiological reaction. Your heart is pounding, you're trembling, you're sweating, you want to run away, but you don't. But you also experience fear. Canon and Barrett is saying these are two separate processes. They just happen at the same time. Now, social psychologists Schachter and Singer saw some merit in both theories and proposed a two-factor theory. So their theory is called the two-factor theory of emotion. And this is a label applied to physiological arousal results in the experience of an emotion. So when people experience arousal, they initiate a search for its source. Let me just check my next slide. Okay. When you see a stimuli, you have a physiological reaction. According to Schachter and Singer, you search for the source of that physiological arousal. I'll come back to misattribution in a moment. You see a threatening grizzly bear. You have your physiological response. There's a scary bear. I'm afraid of it. And you have that fear. The Schachter and Singer theory adds the attribution. It's an additional cognitive step where your mind searches for a label of what it's feeling. So when people experience arousal, it's that physiological arousal that triggers the cognitive process of coming to understand the emotion it's feeling. Now, sometimes people misidentify the source of their arousal. This is called misattribution of arousal. And it's just a glitch that we sometimes experience. Let's see. Now, no one theory is right. And that's one of the things in psychology that I think you'll find in all areas. There are multiple theories to explain every aspect of human nature. And no one theory explains all of what it's trying to explain. There is no one correct theory of emotion. There is no one correct theory of child development. There is no one correct theory of personality. Humans are too complicated for any one theory to explain it all. And that's why we look at multiple theories. Multiple theories allow us to explore in detail the human experience. And so we can take, we can examine each theory. That gives us a sliver of the puzzle. And then we put it together the best we can. I don't think we're ever going to solve the puzzle of human nature. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about studying human nature, is it's an unsolvable problem. Or I should say an unsolvable puzzle. It's not a problem, it's just a puzzle. There will never be a single theory to explain the vastness of human nature. So, as you're reading about these three theories and doing homework assignments, know that no one theory is correct. Each of these theories gives a piece of information to the puzzle of what is human emotion. Why do we experience it the way that we do? Thank you so much, and good luck with the exam.